Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another great spotlight session. Today we have our in office, our should I say our our great affiliate, our great partner, Mr.
hmm
Brian Cooper of Cooper Home Inspections, who has been a great partner to us for years to come. He's helped a lot of our agents with their home inspections. He's always very informative when he comes on as a guest. So, I'll let him take it away and go through what he's seeing in today's home inspecting market. Go ahead, Brian. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. I'm Brian Cooper from Cooper Inspection Services. I cover territories from Warren County down to, I'll go as far as Ocean County. Um, but what I'm seeing, obviously, and this has been really since COVID, is a lot of contracts are written where it's structural, environmental, health, and safety only. But what I tell the clients is I go in and I do a full home inspection. And what they can do is whatever they are able to ask for in the negotiation process, they can. But then I tell them to use my report kind of as a checklist on what they need to do in the future. My deficiencies are color coded. So red is a dangerous situation. Could be electrical, could be structural, something like that. That stuff that's got to get taken care of right away. Orange is something that's wrong that needs to be addressed. But while I'm there on the inspection with the clients, I will tell them how important it is. And if it's something they could do 6 months from now or 2 years from now, I'll kind of walk them through that. And then blue is just kind of monitor, maintain. It might be something as simple as your furnace filter, items like that. So with the way the market changed into that, I've kind of adapted the way I do things as well. The One of the other things I added a couple of years ago was pre-listing inspections. So if you have somebody that's going to be putting their house on the market and you walk through the house and there's some stuff that needs to be addressed, I can go in and do a full home inspection report. So they can use that as a checklist to address issues. And that way they have time to address the issues instead of being under the gun with contractors, within the tight timelines of the closing date. So pre-listing inspections have been a great addition to my business. I am also excited to announce that I will be adding tank sweep and sewer scope to my business. I just completed tank sweep, a small training program online. I literally am in the process. I should have insurance for it by midweek next week. I finalized everything with my broker yesterday. Sewer scope is going to take a little bit more time because that training is a little more intensive, but I imagine I'll be up and running with the sewer scopes by the end of the month. So I know there are a lot of agents that don't like to have multiple inspectors come to the property to do the different things, and that was what made me decide to add that to my book of business. So I'll be able to do everything in one shot. Possibly in the coming months, also adding level two chimney. I just have to see if I have time to do that with depending on how busy the spring market gets. Um, One of the other things that helps me and helped me establish my business and get me to where I am now is how I communicate with clients. There are a lot of inspectors out there that seem to they seem to take pride in killing deals and scaring clients, and I am the farthest thing from that. I have always been in the sales industry, so that has helped me be able to communicate with clients, but I keep things in perspective. I explain things in simple terms. Obviously, if there's a major structural issue or water intrusion or something like that, I do have to address it and possibly recommend a structural engineer as needed. But I'm not that guy that scares people off and kills deals. So that's what's helped me succeed. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I do radon testing, WDI, mold inspections, as well as pool inspections on open pools. I also have somebody that I refer work out to if it's a winter inspection and they want to get a closed pool inspection. He has an underwater drone. He can inspect that as well. Um, but the pool inspections, I'm assuming, will kind of kick off in April when pools start to open up. Trying to think of what else. My reports are done. I did 2 inspections yesterday. One of those reports is already done this morning. The second one will be done once we're done here. Um, I guarantee 24 hours. Most of the time they're done, within 12 to 18 hours because I know everything is time sensitive with the transaction. For my local radon stuff, I have 3 electronic radon monitors. I will be adding 2 more very shortly. The benefit of the electronic radon monitor is that when I pick it up, it is connected to an app on my phone. I know the reading while I'm there on site. I can share it with everybody. And then I have that report the next day. So a lot of times, radon results are out in your hands within 3 to 4 days instead of 7 to 10 days with canisters. Anything over usually a half hour, 40 minutes away, I will leave canisters because I have a service that picks those up for me. I think that is about it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions?
What are some things that you're seeing, going through like the winter, right? Like doing home inspections in the winter time. What are like the biggest like wear and tear things that you see?
And this is something that I harp on, but moisture intrusion into the basement, with all the snow melt and everything else, and not having gutters getting everything out away from the house. So seeing that, um, I've had a bad run on roofs lately where there's, roofs just aren't in great shape. Um, and then the other telltale sign, if you've got houses in a neighborhood and everybody's got snow on the roof, and then you come to a house where there's no snow on it, there's a ventilation issue or an issue with air from inside the house getting into the attic, which is causing the attic to heat up and the snow to melt off. If you've got snow on every roof, you want every roof to have snow. That one house that doesn't have snow on it, there's an issue there. So it's a telltale sign for me to start looking into that as I go on with the inspection. Um,
Hmm. That's
but
something I never thought of before. That,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
and then you know what? While we're on that topic, with the snow-covered roofs and stuff like that, on the local inspections, most inspectors will write that up and disclaim it that there was snow on the roof. If I'm watching the weather and I know that when I'm going back to pick up my radon, there might have been a couple days of warm weather, I'll put my drone back up, take pictures of the roof, and be able to add the roofing section to the report at a later date, just so that it's not disclaimed, and then all of a sudden there's a surprise at closing when the roof is in horrible shape. So I'll go back. Same thing with rain. I have no problem going back to a house to take pictures of the roof if I can't do it on the day of the inspection.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, are the radon canisters a thing of the past anymore?
They kind of are, and I've done I've had to go back and retest houses. If you hit a certain level in radon, you have to go back and retest.
Mhm.
And the DEP has had me do both, and they're very comparable. But the thing is, with the electronic, it's so easy because of the app on the phone. That's why I'm going to add more, just because it's simple, it's faster. Postal service is how I send my cans that I pick up, and I've had cans get to the lab in Freehold in 2 days, and I've had invalid tests because it took 7 days. From Central Jersey to Freehold should not take 7 days for something to ship. So that's why another reason I like the electronic.
Okay.
Um, but the cans are still out there. The benefit of cans further out for me is that the girl that picks up my radon canisters, the service that I use, she hand delivers to the lab because she lives in Freehold. So that's another thing that speeds it up.
And in the having a meter there, it's an every hour reading, correct?
Yes, yes,
So that'll give you a more accurate results than just an overall reading of a 2 or 3 day period.
yes. And then when I look at it on the computer, you look at the graph, and if we have during the storm season, if we have a high pressure system that moves in, it's crazy to be able to follow along with the high pressure as it comes in and the graph goes up and the
Mm.
radon level increases from that.
Mm.
So
Interesting.
it's definitely
Mhm.
interesting stuff.
Okay.
That
Thank
is
you.
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you guys have some questions? Ask them now. You have a home inspector right in front of you.
Hey, Brian, question. First of all, good morning. I appreciate you here. As a matter of fact, I'm a user. We have used Brian in the past, and he's been nothing but fantastic. So, quick question with regards to lately, a lot of the houses, a lot of the purchases are with old houses, either tanks or or in some way, shape, or form, potential lead on the basement because of the, piping and all
Pipes,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Anything that you have seen or that recommend, or probably give us a little bit of a tip on it?
So with the lead, I see more lead waste pipes than I do supply pipes. That's not as common. And honestly, I did a little bit of extra research on this last year, and lead waste pipes are harmless because nothing is affecting your drinking water or anything like that. Obviously, when that plumbing gets updated and they're going to be cutting that stuff out, it's something that wants to be, you don't want to be breathing that in as they do that. That you want to make sure your contractor's taking the proper precautions with a canister respirator and the appropriate PPE for that kind of stuff. The tanks, it's obviously I see certain areas where it's more common than others to have tanks that people didn't know about. I have a company out of Somerville, Stewart Environmental, that I'm kind of in a networking group with, and I've been talking to her to try to partner up with her to. I don't always get that referral, but I think now that I'm doing tank sweeps, I'm going to be able to refer business out to removal companies. And the big thing with that is if the tank didn't leak, it's fairly straightforward. It's a couple $1,000s and they're in the clear. But the problem becomes when there's leakage and the LSRP has to get involved and deal with contaminated soil. There's another company I used to deal with. I was involved in my family's automotive business, and we had to have tanks removed, multiple tanks on our property. So I can refer stuff out. I know a little bit more about it than most inspectors just because of what we went through with our place. But I'm excited to start doing that just to see what I find. So I am also involved with I don't know. There's a company called GPR out of Clinton. So I am going to do the basic tank sweep. If something is found that is an anomaly that can't be dug or anything like that, I'm going to be able to refer to them to use ground penetrating radar. And they would come in with that machine and they'll be able to actually kind of lay out the size and scope of the tank. And they'll be able to tell whether it was an old septic tank or a cesspool or just something that somebody buried. I recently saw an agent that I work with out of Greenbrook, and they had a car that was buried in somebody's backyard. Yeah, somebody had thrown a car in a pool that they're closing an in-ground pool. They're filling it in, and they threw a car in there as part of and they had to pull it out of the ground because there's possibility of oil contamination, gasoline contamination. So if I get a chance, I'll pull up the post and I'll share it with you guys. It was
Any bodies in that car?
no, nobody.
Was there any money in the car? That's my question. Like,
Yeah, I know. I don't know what.
How much was the car worth? Like, was this like,
Exactly. I just saw the Facebook post and I was chuckling. It was funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I just had on one of my listings, the buyers had a tank sweep done. And they went way out to the backyard. They swept the whole backyard, it was like 2+ acres. And they found a tank next to a shed, or what they deemed might have been a tank. Sure enough, it was a tank, but what it was is that the previous owners from years ago must have dug a hole, cut the side of the tank out, cleaned it out, but that's not where the tank actually was. They didn't know what to do with the tank. They threw the tank in a hole that they dug,
Yep.
filled it, and they just backfilled it from there. But it wasn't ever used, but it was a tank that they put in the ground. And it's like a weird situation. Who would just think of digging a tank and
Just dispose of it.
disposing it that way? But
Right.
back 40, 50 years ago, I guess that was a little bit more common. You just
Yeah,
dig a hole.
Yeah, you couldn't call the dumpster company to come, pick up your
Well, there's three, I mean, I don't know if it was back then, but 3 miles away is a scrap metal company, which you
Oh,
could
that's
probably
funny.
get a couple $100 for that, so.
That's something I see like and Hunter and Warren County, they used to live totally differently than Somerset and Middlesex County.
Uh,
The things that I have found that homeowners have done to cut corners on stuff, and they think it's acceptable, and it's just I had a house where there was a belly in the sewer line inside the house. Instead of fixing the belly, the kitchen sink, dishwasher, and washing machine were on the front wall of the house. The guy knocked a hole in the slab and just ran a pipe underneath the house to get rid of that water. And that's going to cause major issues with washing out the soil around the foundation. Like, I couldn't believe it when I found it, but the older country folks out there used to just do things differently and they didn't care. So, but
That's crazy. Brian, I have a question. So when we're doing, our own, inspection, we're supposed to be looking for latent defects and things like that. What are like the I won't say like the, best things to do, but what would be like best practices for trying to find, like what we can see on our own before you get there?
anything visual, if you're looking in the basement, and I think a lot of realtors know this, but vertical cracks in the basement are not something that I always worry about.
Hmm.
Depending on the size of the crack and if there's wall movement, it gets written up different ways.
Hmm.
Horizontal is always an issue, and this is the other thing I tell my agents, um, agents that work with me. If you're on a showing and you see something, shoot me a text. Um, I can usually respond to a text fairly quickly, even if I'm on an inspection. I'll take a look at my phone real quick and I'll say, "Hey, that's a major issue. That's not big of a deal." Um, Cracking inside the house, same thing. If there's corner cracks around doors and windows are common, but when you get cracks in the middle of a wall, or you've got cracks, vertical cracks in the basement, then you've got cracks above it on the first floor, then you've got cracks above it on the second floor. That's indicative of a bigger issue. You could always go to a window in that area, try to open the window. If it opens and closes smoothly, the shifting may not be that bad. But if you have a window or a door that's really racked out of alignment, this can all tie together with a major structural issue.
Hmm.
I had a very large paper wasp nest over the summer, um, in a basement in between the floor joists, and it was right on an outside wall. There was a little hole outside where they were getting in and out of the house, and they built this nest in the basement. And it was an older person. They had moved their washer and dryer upstairs, so these people never went in the basement and had no idea this was down there. And the agent sent it to me. I said, "Listen, they just have to seal off the entry point from the outside." Um, Knock down the nest, have an exterminator come in if there's anything in it, have it removed appropriately. But it's as simple as closing off the entry point from the outside, and there will be no further issues with it. But the other thing, open junction boxes in the basement, that's something I always write up. I used to have a presentation on this. The downspouts outside the house, you want your downspouts going at least 6 to 8 feet away
Six
from
to
the
eight
house.
feet.
Yeah,
I
just
remember you said that. I said that. I actually use that all the time
yeah,
when I
yeah,
speak to clients, and they're like, "Wow, you really know your stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, I've been
yeah,
around the block."
yeah. But grading, you can look under the sinks just to make sure that there's no water leakage. Mold in the basement. Mold generally will grow. If you're walking around the basement, always try to look at the subfloor if it's on an unfinished basement. Mold will grow better on wood than it will on concrete. So, you always get a little mold around the French drain, if there's water sitting. But if there's a true mold issue, it will be on the subfloor. It can be black, it can be green, it can be whitish in color. If you see something that's white and you're wondering if it's mold, just touch it. If it comes off powdery on your hand, then it's a different kind. It's a mold growth, just a different type of mold. But trying to think, that would be about it. And for agents that aren't afraid to go in the attic, just poke your head up there. Attics are notorious for mold. On the side of, if you get an area that doesn't get a lot of sun, just look at the sheathing. The sheathing should be tan looking. It should not be black or green, when you're in an attic. So if you want to, just to take a peek up there to get ahead of things. Um, and the
We do
roof.
have one question. Are uneven floors a reason of concern for the buyer, and how do we inspect these types of issues?
So I base that off of the age of the house. There are obviously on a 100-year-old house, you're going to have more settling than you will on a 20-year-old house. So I keep it in perspective, and I look at the floors, but then I look at the trim around the doors. I try to carry multiple floors just to see what it looks like. And again, that is the way I can either write it up that it's uneven floors because it's an older home, or I'm going to write it up that it's a structural issue. You've got to get a structural engineer in there to look at it. Obviously, if the subfloor is exposed underneath in a crawl space or basement, um, I can make a better assumption. The house I was in, I was with Jennifer Anderson, one of your new agents yesterday. The house I was in yesterday had a big slope in the family room. but I couldn't get in the crawl space, but I was able to look into it. And they had masonry block piers that were just on dirt. There was no footing, and you could see a dip in the main beam, so it was easy to, all right, the floor is on level. Let me go underneath, see what it looks like. Boom, this is what needs to be done to fix it. Now, obviously, in the finished basement with a fixed ceiling, it may be harder. But these things are all, years ago, I had a house that had severe settlement. They had a company come in, jacked everything up from the basement, inserted a steel beam. They slid it in, they cut a hole in the front of the house, slid it in, reset the beam, and the whole house came back up into level. So there's ways to fix these things. The hard part now is with it being such a seller's market, or are they willing to pay for that, or is it going to be on the buyer?
Yeah, that's very true. What are you seeing in terms of like new construction? I keep seeing videos like online of like, inspectors going to these new construction communities and seeing all types of things going on.
So I do a decent amount of new construction. I find the same things, and I won't bad talk any builders, but I have a
Hmm.
development in Upper Saddle River that I only went that far as a favor for somebody, and then I ended up doing 7 houses in that development. None of those houses had any less than 15 deficiencies. They were
Hmm.
bad, and they were built during COVID, and I understand there were material issues, there were labor issues, and everything else. But all of these houses were $1.5 million plus, and the items I found, it was just it was bad. Um, Lennar is an
Lennar, yeah.
I've done probably half a dozen of those last year. Love their work. If you're looking at the Lennar stuff, their stuff I find the least amount of issues with those. Uh,
I'll I'll let my niece Karen know. She's a top salesperson for Lennar.
are you
So
really?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I like to see their sign as I'm pulling into the development. The other thing I do, if somebody, and I've advised people on this, if obviously the town is going to come in and inspect, there are certain companies that don't allow me to come in, and they'll allow me to inspect, but they want $2 million insurance policy. I have to wear a hard hat. I'm not allowed to open the electrical panel. I'm not allowed to operate the HVAC. So that I tell those people there's no point in me doing a new construction inspection when it's going to be strictly, literally visual only. I do an 11-month warranty inspection. So most houses come with a 12-month warranty. I'll go in at 11 months, do a full inspection, but the benefit of that is those people are living in the house. So I can literally ask them, what are you finding? Blue tape stuff for me. And as we go in, we'll look at it. Those inspections, I will also write up a little more the cosmetic issues than I normally would on a home inspection. And that way they have a full inspection report to give to the builder to say, hey, this is what we want fixed. So if somebody doesn't want to do a new construction inspection, I'll go in and do an 11-month warranty inspection. For them just to get their warranty work done. But I've had new construction where the exterior compressor unit for the HVAC had to be moved because the exhaust for the high efficiency furnace was right there. Like, it's not an issue right now, but that exhaust is caustic and it's going to wear the metal down in that compressor and it's going to cause issues 5 years from now. But by then they're going to forget about the builder. It's just basic stuff that should be done. And corners get cut, and that's why I can go in and find those issues.
Brian, in the same line of new construction, then the flips are also a concern to you when you just go in, right?
Yes, yes. I have a verbatim comment that goes into all my reports when I'm on a flip. I hate to say I take a different approach, but I look at things a little closer for the finish work. Because if they cut corners on the finish work, then I really worry about did they cut corners on stuff. Because the flip I hate the most is when they finish a basement and put drywall ceiling, Instead of putting a drop ceiling or leaving the ceiling open, they kind of just, I worry that they're covering something or there's an issue going on. I don't find as many bad flips as I used to. Like yesterday's inspection was a flip and it was decent. The day before I was in Old Bridge and I had a flip that, I'm obviously never going to tell somebody not to buy a house, but I wrote the report up as such, just to give them enough warning that the flip was not done well.
Okay. We got a couple questions. When should you suggest your client that you need a sewer inspection, and how much does that cost?
So I used to really only recommend sewer inspections when it was cast iron pipe. Now I'm at the point I've heard enough bad stories about PVC and ABS and everything else. I would say anything over 10 years old should get a sewer inspection done. I know there's guys out there anywhere from like $275 to $400. The $400 number is usually if a plumber comes in to do it. My sewer inspections, right now I'm planning to price it out at $250. I'm already going to be there, so it's not like I'm going there just for that. So I figure I'm gonna keep the price fair. And that's the other thing too. The more things people bundle with me, I discount a little bit. So if you do home inspection rate on termite, I'm knocking $50 off. Once I add sewer inspection and tank sweep, I may knock 75 to 100 off. I haven't figured out that specific pricing yet. Now the leaks, usually a sewer leak should not be a cost to the client. That should be something major enough that a seller should have to take care of it, and it depends on what it is. The most common repair for clogs and such is jetting, but if there is a leak, it has to get dug up. The client has to see if they have service line coverage with their homeowner's insurance, so that they can, get it covered under insurance. New Jersey American Water, some people buy into that program. I don't recommend it because they don't always stand by the warranty. They try everything they can to get out of it, and they're also using the cheapest contractor possible. So the work quality, I've heard of houses where the yard had to get it dug up 6 or 7 times to fix something properly. But I always recommend service line coverage to the clients through their homeowners. It's about $40 a year, and it would all you're paying is your deductible. How long do you take for a well inspection? I don't do well inspections. I look at the well equipment. I grew up on a house on a well, and my first house in Hillsborough had a well, so I know a little more about them. I don't do the water quality stuff just because you can't do that as an independent. The labs want that just for themselves. Most of the people I know that do them, they have their own lab. And then gas tank inspection, I don't come across that much except on commercial properties. And usually if there's possibility of gas tank in my commercial template, I have a write-up that they should have with gas tanks, I think they need ground penetrating radar, not just a tank sweep, because it's a much more intensive inspection, and it's going to give them a better idea of what's there. Multi-point inspections. So my average full home inspection, 2,800 square foot, four bedroom colonial is $650. My pricing is based off of square footage. Condos and townhouses that are HOA, I give a big discount. I know there are inspection companies out there that charge full price, and I just do not think that's fair. I couldn't do it. I did a townhouse yesterday on a slab in Bordentown. It was $400 for the home inspection and termite. I didn't do radon. Condos, if it's a 2-bedroom condo, I'm at like $325. And then smaller, like an 1,100 square foot house, is $550 for home inspection, radon, and termite. For a mold test, it's $350 for indoor air quality. So that's that includes 2 or 3 air samples, or 2 air samples and a swab sample. Pool inspection, I'm at $395. And then the tank sweep also, I'm going to probably do at $250, which I'm finding is kind of average for that. I'm hearing $250 to $300 for tank sweeps.
Cool. Anybody else have some more questions for Brian while we got him here?
Hey, Brian, I do have a question for radon with a house with no basement that they test on a first floor and even a second floor. What are the state mandated levels for a first floor with no basement?
It's still 4.0.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and obviously it's a tougher remediation at that point because you don't have a basement to hide the equipment. Years ago, I did a house in Washington Borough, up in Warren County. I had radon level of 125. and that was still single canister time. Anything over 100, the DEP gets involved and they interview you. I have to have protocols. I have to have a written out sheet of how I do my radon testing. So the lab called me first to tell me that the DEP was going to be calling me the next day. I did my interview with the DEP. I went back and reset multiple canisters. Part of the reason I agreed to go back that quick was because I had an inspection 3 blocks away a couple days later. That was on a slab, and I told the client they need to test on the slab because of the radon level I found 3 blocks away. That was 8 and on a slab up there, you know. Luckily, they had a utility room in a back corner of the house, so they were able to remediate back there. But it's still 4.0. I don't always tell people that they have to test on a slab, but what I do is as I'm driving into that neighborhood, I'm looking at the houses just to see if I see radon pipes. And then I'll add the radon test there if I think we definitely need to do it.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Anyone else have any questions for Brian? I think I'm all out of questions. I think I'm questioned out for the moment.
I appreciate the time. I appreciate you guys having me on. Alfredo, I appreciate the kind words. I know we've worked together. Yoli, it's been a while, but I know we've worked together too. So listen, if you guys ever have any questions, I tried to put my contact info in the chat, but when I hit return, it
I saw that. So
it enters.
with the chat, you just have to just write all your information out and then just you can't like make it look nice.
Good to see you, Brian.
And
Good to
Lawrence,
see you.
I work with Brian because some of the guys in the office have worked with him in the past. The referral was coming from the office, and we did a project together in Somerville. Very, very, very good. My client was extremely happy with the results, and he was extremely professional, a long time. Everything was great, and report, like he said, right on time. So, I know that Brian is not paying me absolutely a single penny for saying this, but when people are doing the right stuff, has to be.
I agree. He's one of the best out there,
So,
if not the.
Thank you,
Alfredo, funny story about that house. So those sellers of that house bought in Hunterdon County in Raritan Township, Flemington, Raritan Township. The contract was under the son and daughter-in-law, and then the parents came, and the parents were the ones from that house in Summer. So I'm walking around and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, man, where do I know him from? And it was from that house. That was
wow.
It's funny when you get to do that, but
it all circles back. So
yeah.
Thank you, Brian. You were terrific. Thanks.
Thank you guys too. And if you guys are ever on a listing, you have a question, feel free to shoot me a text, and I'll gladly answer any questions for you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Brian, for coming on. We really, really, really appreciate it. Guys, make sure you are all here for next week's masterclass in the office. I have a AI social media coach guy person. He has a lot of labels. And he's going to come in and do an in-office presentation for us, and it's going to be amazing. So make sure you don't miss out. Make sure you check your emails. I'm sending out worksheets and stuff like that he has, that he wants me to send out to all of us and stuff like that. So it should be a lot of fun. So make sure I see you all on Valentine's Day of all days. Come spend it with me. Come have your loving day in the office and train and love about it.
Oh God. I'm nauseous now, Lawrence. I'm sorry.
Joe, you're in love.
Yeah. Hey,
I'm glad I got this week and not next week.
Yeah, Brian, great job. Great job. Lawrence, thank you for setting this all up. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
You all have a great weekend. Brian, I'll see you around. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot.